Okay, POW number 2, or number 10, wants you to solve for x. So what I did to the problem, I used red ink. So the first thing I need to do is move 3 to the other side. So I multiplied both sides by 3 and ended up with negative 18 on the right-hand side. Then the next step was to add 2 to both sides. So when I did that, I ended up with negative 4x equals negative 16. And the third step was to divide both sides by negative 4. When I did that, I ended up isolating x. And the last step was just to solve, and I got x equals a positive 4. So the answer to POW number 10 was x equals 4. POW number 11, it wanted you to figure out how much peach filling was in a pie. And the problem went on to tell you that there were 75 total ounces of filling, and it was made up of apple and peach. It also told you that there was 5 times as much apple filling as there was peach. So I set up the problem with apple plus peach, but since the apple had 5 times as much, apple was 5x and the peach was x. So my first step after setting the problem up was combine like terms. So that's how I got 6x equals 75. And then I wanted to isolate x so I could figure out what it was. So I divided both sides by 6, and I figured out that x was 12.5. I wanted to make sure that all of my information was correct, so I substituted x back into the original problem. And the original problem was 5 times the amount of x was what the apple filling was, and then plus the peach filling. And so 5 times 12.5 ended up being 62.5 plus the 12.5, and it checked out that both sides did equal 75. So that meant the peach filling was 12.5 ounces. POW number 12. This wanted you to find the side lengths of 2 cubes. It told you that cube J had a volume of 216 cubic centimeters and cube K had a volume of 64 cubic centimeters. Since a cube has all sides the same, we're going to use x cubed for the formula. So the volume equals x cubed. The volume for J was 216 and the volume for cube was 64. So in order to isolate x, we just needed to take the cube root. The cube root of 216 is 6 and the cube root of 64 is 3. We needed to find the difference in those two. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So the answer to that one was A. POW number 13, we've done this one several times before, and we needed to evaluate a repeating decimal plus a fraction. Whenever you have a repeating decimal, you need to turn it into fraction form. So we turned 15/99 into 5/33. And since in order to add fractions you have to have a common denominator, we needed to get a common denominator, which was 33. Then we needed to make an equivalent fraction. So 2/3, we set that equal to 33. We solved for the new numerator, and 22/33 is the same as 2/3. Those are equivalent fractions. So now we could add 5/33 and 22/33 to get 27/33. Well, that still needs to be reduced because there is a 3 in common with both of those numbers, so we reduced that down to 9/11. So that was the answer to POW number 13. POW number 14, it wanted to know what the solution was to this equation. So the first thing that you needed to do was you needed to distribute. And then after you distributed on both sides of the equal sign, you needed to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. And then you could start moving things around. Still want to get your like terms together. And when you did that, you found out that 8 was left on the left-hand side of the equal sign and 0 was on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So when you have 8 equals 0, that means there's no solution. So the answer to POW 14 was no solution. POW number 15, the answer was x. The equation said the perimeter of the triangle below is 28 centimeters. What's the value of x? So perimeter is found by adding up all sides, so we just added up 2x plus 8, set that equal to 28. Combined like terms, moved 8 to the other side. That left us with 4x equals 20. Still need to isolate x, so we divide both sides by 4, and we got x equals 5. I put that back into the original equation to check to make sure that the answer was correct. And when we did, we got 28 equals 28. POW number 16. It wanted to know how many boxes a company needed to make of markers in order for the company's income to equal the cost of production. So we needed to set the amount that the company sold equal to the amount that it was going to cost for them to make it. So what they were going to set, they were going to charge $2.85 for each box of markers. So that's why we get 285x. And what it cost them to make this was just a flat fee of $500 plus 35 cents per box. So that's the equation that we're setting up. We're going to combine like terms, and we're going to get 0.35 over to the other side with 2.85. So when you do that, you're going to subtract those two, and you end up with 2.50x equals 500. And we want to isolate x, so we're going to divide both sides by $2.50, and you found out that x equaled 200. So the answer to the equation was if the company must sell 200 boxes of markers in order to equal the cost of production, which is also known as the break-even amount. Okay, POW number 17. Given the figure below, and it told you that line Y and Z are parallel, what's the value of N? Well, it had two transversals that were going through lines Y and line Z. So we needed to use several of the things that we've learned in order to find out the measurement of this blue angle right here. We knew that these two were supplementary angles, so I did 180, take away 135, and found out that that was 45. I knew that this angle up here was vertical with the 80 degrees, so that was 80 degrees. Now having 45 degrees and 80 degrees, I added those two together and found out that that was 125 degrees.